What is going on, people? We are Tottenham TV here, back again for another live stream for you guys on this Friday afternoon after Tottenham did unfortunately get defeated yesterday away in Istanbul 3-2 in Turkey, in what was a very disappointing performance and disappointing display, but there were some positives to take away, and we'll get into that on this stream. We'll be talking about the Galatasaray game. We'll be going through the player ratings. We've got reacts to come as well, and we're also going to be previewing the Ipswich game on the weekend. We're going to have the predicted lineup. Andrew's already done his press conference this morning, so we do have team news for you guys as well. I hope everyone in the chat is doing okay. I can see Katie Kim in the chat. Hello to you. Peter Kahagias, I'm going to butcher that, sorry. They say, hi all, 12:15 a.m. in Melbourne, big up to you. Jacob Bannister says, what do you guys make of the Bergvall criticism? We'll get into all your questions during this stream, don't you worry. Ben isn't with me today. He's currently on a plane back from Istanbul. If you did watch the vlog, you might have noticed that I wasn't in Istanbul and I'm here in London. And it is true, the night before the flight, my passport has gone missing and I've lost it. So I had to stay, and which is very frustrating for me. These things happen, unfortunately. Things get misplaced, things get lost, and I was up all night looking for my passport. It has been Thanos snapped out of the earth. It's don't know where it is, to be honest. And yeah, I had to stay in London. Huh?
You'll find it later.
Yeah, I'll find it at some point. We've got some more trips coming up, so I've got to apply for a new one, but I didn't make the trip. I didn't forget my passport. I looked for it the night before and it was gone. Yeah, I didn't turn up to the airport without a passport. That's not what happened. Anyone peddling that narrative is peddling fake news. Two Dance Over says, boys, do not overcomplicate this. Our passing to a man was piss poor and not even Sunday League standard. QQBA says, Maddison has no... let me get these comments up. Maddison has no consistency at his age and he should be sold. Very, very damning. It wasn't a good night for James Maddison, I think it's fair to say, but I don't think he was the main problem on the night, to be honest. I think it was a team thing. Again, let's get into the match review. It was a very, very poor 3-2 defeat to Galatasaray, and what could have been, I think 3-2, it's fair to say, flattered Tottenham yesterday. It was a very, very disappointing performance. I think from minute one you can see that the things were off, the standards were low, we were very much on the back foot, and we struggled to really contain Galatasaray. Going into this game, I said before going into this game that I wanted to make sure that we managed the squad correctly, because whether you like it or not, this is a game we could afford to lose and still qualify in the top 8. Yes, we want to do as best as we can in this competition, finish as high as possible. And actually, what I didn't realise is the higher you finish in that top 8 does actually make a bit of a difference, because in terms of what side of the draw you're on, the kind of draw you get in the next round, if you finish, the higher you finish, the more chance you are of getting a easier draw. So Obviously, it's we want to finish as high as possible in that top 8. But as long as you are in that top 8, given the quality in this competition, you do back yourselves against most teams. So as long as we get that automatic qualification to the round of, I believe it's the round of 16, I'm not going to be too bothered where we finish in the top 8. To be honest, I don't think it makes too much difference. But you do want to avoid that playoff. So of course, we want to be in top 8, but we can afford to lose this game and still be in the top 8, which is evidence that we are still 7th after that defeat yesterday. So going into this game, I think the priority for me was, yes, we want to try and put our team to get a result. Yes, we want to try and win the game, but we have a lot of injuries. We went into this game without Werner, Moore, Richarlison, Odegaard, only Son and Johnson as our only fit wingers going into this game. We have to manage the squad very carefully. Udogie had played a lot of minutes. No Romero, no Van der Ven. It was always going to be very, very difficult, even with putting out a full-strength team. It was always going to be very difficult to contain this Galatasaray side. And for me, personally, the priority was always Sunday with Ipswich, knowing that a win could really put us in a good position in the league going into the international break. So looking at the lineup, I wasn't surprised that we had, Gray, Bergvall, Lancashire all starting. It didn't shock me that we decided to change things up because we have to manage a squad. Now, for Galatasaray, this was like a cup final for them. It was a very, very big game. You could see before the game, a lot of players were talking about their excitement, the Galatasaray players for this game. A lot of players were talking about how big this game was. Sanchez as well, facing his old club. Osimhen, trying to get himself a big European move. And this was obviously a massive stage, considering, let's be honest, the Turkish league, there's not going to be too many eyes on it. And, when he plays in Europa League, there's going to be a lot of people watching that to see how he does. And obviously he was always going to be up for this. Icardi's always been a good striker. Mertens is an experienced European player. They've got some young fullbacks as well who played very well yesterday. So it was always going to be a difficult game. Galatasaray are very, very good at home. They're very good from set pieces. They've won 9 and drawn 1 of their 10 games in Turkey. They're always good on big European nights, even against the very best. So I did expect a tough game, and that's what it proved. We were on the back foot for pretty much the entire game. I thought in the first half, if I run through it, I think, get the stats up here. You can see the momentum bar. This is the stats brought to you by SofaScore. You can see here the momentum bar for pretty much the whole game. Galatasaray on top of us, and they were pressing us. We were sloppy on the ball. The atmosphere was very much... we were struggling to deal with that intense atmosphere. And you can see in the first half here, 11 shots to our 1. We had 1 shot, which was the goal. Every time Galatasaray went forward, they were carving us open. We know that Tottenham always commit risk and commit players how we usually play. I know maybe last few games against City and Villa, we tried to do things in a different way, but I think going away to a team like Galatasaray, where we feel like maybe we could go toe-to-toe with them, we were so open. Whenever we tried to play the ball through the middle, very, very sloppy. Bergvall struggling to hold on to the ball. Maddison getting caught and being sloppy on the ball as well. Dragoshin really failing to play the ball through the lines. And obviously it took 5 minutes for Galatasaray to take the lead with a volley from a good 25 yards. And I think it's a good strike. Who was the player who scored it? It was Akgun. Akgun, I think you pronounced his name. Clearly a very talented player. Unbelievable left-footed strike in the first 5 minutes. But I have to say, I think Fraser Forster has to do better. I think Vicario saves that. It's a good strike. It's not exactly in the corner. It's fairly central. Forster gets a big hand to it, and I think if a different keeper was in goal for that, I think he saves it. So I do think Forster has to do better, despite the fact it was a good strike from the Galatasaray left back. I think he doesn't move quick enough, Fraser Forster. I think he doesn't get wide enough with his reach. I just think Forster, in this game, I'll go when we're going to play ratings, I'll get into it, but I think he could have done better with the goal, to be honest. We did equalise fairly soon after, only 10 minutes, and maybe gave us a full sense of how in the game we were, because Galatasaray after that obviously created chance after chance. But you can see in this first half, 11 shots, 1.5 xG, 4 big chances for Galatasaray. And when we did equalise, it was against the run of play. Brilliant goal. Brilliant play on the left by Sonny, nutmegging one of the Galatasaray players, plays it into Archie Gray, a beautiful ball over the top to Brennan Johnson, who times his run to perfection, squares it to Lancashire, who taps it home. And I thought he did all right, Will Lancashire, to be honest, during the game. I thought he was giving them trouble. He had a few chances, was obviously unlucky with the sending off, but really well-worked goal from Spurs, and showed, even though we were under the cosh and even though we were struggling to impose ourselves in the game, we still had quality at times to hurt this Galatasaray team. So that was a positive. The fact there was two of the teenagers involved as well was really positive. But I would say, it was a really good team move, but we struggled to kind of build on that on that moment. Pretty much straight away, Galatasaray hit us back. Osimhen had a goal ruled out from offside with the ball over the top. They then went through 1-on-1. It was saved by Fraser Forster straight at him. And then the moment came where a ball goes to Radu Dragoshin, where he's played from Ben Davis, I think it is, and he's just not concentrating. He doesn't see there's a player to his right. He's more concentrated. He's got 2 players on him, so I understand the difficulty, but this is not the first time that Dragoshin has done this. He did the same thing against Qarabağ. He lets the ball run across him, doesn't take a good touch, and allows himself to be pinched in a very dangerous position. He's now done exactly the same thing. He did the same thing against RZ, but thankfully we recovered the situation on that occasion. Against Qarabağ, he got sent off for it, and on this occasion, it cost us a goal. He gives the ball away in a very dangerous position. In fact, he fouls the Galatasaray player who tackled him. He actually gets booked for that situation, and then the ball gets played through to Osimhen, and he wasn't going to miss on the third time of asking. Toe pokes it past Fraser Forster, and it's 2-1 and thoroughly deserved. And Dragoshin's ability on the ball, it has been questioned, and it has been questioned whether he has the quality on the ball to really play in the Ange Postecoglou system. As much as I think he's a very good defender, and as much as I think he does the fundamentals quite well, there's always, until he stops cutting out these mistakes, there's always going to be these question marks about him on the ball, whether he's composed enough. And that was definitely something that he struggled with yesterday for sure, and it cost us the second goal. Third goal, a deep, again, I mean, it could have been 3-1 well before the third goal. I think, again, Osimhen goes through, another good save from Fraser Forster. Apologies, another good save from Fraser Forster, who makes himself big. But very shortly after that, a deep cross from Dries Mertens, and all of a sudden Osimhen gets a run on Dragoshin, and Ben Davies runs off the back of Ben Davies, and it is he on his left foot pokes it past Fraser Forster, controlled finish. Again, I've watched the goal back. It's a good finish from Osimhen, but if you watch it back, Forster doesn't even dive until the ball's past him. It's not an especially fast finish with a lot of power, as much as it does have accuracy. I mean, he's slow to react, Forster. I have to say, he moves like a slow-moving dump truck, to be honest. And I just question whether he's still got the capabilities of playing at this level. I know he made a lot of saves in this game, and you know, fair play to him, because he was peppered with a lot of shots and a lot to deal with. But it just felt like unless the strike was in his vicinity going straight at him, he just struggles with it. And I think the third goal and the first goal were evidence of that. Anything to the side of him, and he was not getting near it. And he's just slow to get down to things. And I not necessarily think that Vicario definitely would have saved it. I do think he would have saved the first one. I not necessarily think that Vicario would have definitely saved this one. But I do think he would have got closer to it, and I do think that Forster was very much slow to react. If you look at the goal and you pause it when Osimhen gets his side foot onto that strike, I mean, Forster is slow. He's so slow to react to that shot, and it just in the end kind of trickles into the back of the net, and it's just poor. It's just poor, I think, from Fraser Forster. We then get peppered, going into the half time, and we're lucky that it's only 3-1 at half time, to be honest. He then makes those changes at half time. He brings off Son and Johnson, and he brings on Maddison and Kulusevski. Now, for me, I didn't mind those subs. I do think it pretty much did kill the game a bit, especially for that period between 45 and the red card for Lancashire, which we'll get into. But I understand the substitution, because we are 3-1 down. It's going to be very difficult to get back in this game. And we have to protect Son and Johnson, because not only are yes, you could argue they're our best chance of getting back in the game, but they are our only fit wingers right now. We can't really afford to get them injured for future games, and this game is going to be very difficult from where we are to get back into this game. We're struggling to impose ourselves, but we're not playing well with the ball at our feet. We're giving the ball away sloppily. We find ourselves 2 goals behind. Yes, it's important to try and find yourselves back, try and find a way back in the game, and try and find points from somewhere, but I think we have to also acknowledge that we've got future games coming up. If we keep Son and Johnson on the pitch and they get an injury, it leaves us very, very short going forward. Because we got Johnson, we got Odegaard and Richarlison with long-term injuries. Moore and Werner at the moment are going to be out for Sunday with illnesses. So we have to protect Son and Johnson, because we need them in future games. And this game is pretty much at this point gone, to be honest. So I didn't mind the substitution. I thought it was probably the right decision to protect them and make sure that they're fit going into Sunday. And I think, yes, it did hamper us on the pitch, and Maddison and Kulusevski playing on the wings did mean we had no real outlet in that second half, and it didn't help us going forward. We were probably just as bad defensively as well. Osimhen kept getting in behind, had a lot of chances. He had a header which went over the bar. He had a few more chances going through, which was one forced a good save out Forster with his feet. There was obviously corners, which there were corners which they were playing balls to the edge of the area, which we were struggling to deal with. Again, Akajan, who clearly has an unbelievable left foot. They were playing volleying from the edge of the area, which we were struggling to deal with. He had a couple of efforts which nearly went in, and we, were very lucky not to concede. And then the big moment, obviously, in the second half, where Will Lancashire, on a yellow card after being adjudged to, I think he used his arm on one of the Galatasaray centre-backs. He then gets a bit overzealous with one of his next challenges, doesn't get anywhere near the ball, kicks, I think it was Akjan on the left-hand side, and gets himself a second yellow and sent off. And unfortunately for him, I do think the second yellow was warranted. I thought the first yellow was harsh, and it was a tough lesson for him, because I actually thought, because in that second half he had a chance, which was a decent effort from after being played through from Kulusevski, not enough power on his finish. But I actually thought he was one of the few players giving Galatasaray a bit of trouble. Obviously, he got his goal, had a chance. Didn't look out of place there, to be honest. Didn't look overwhelmed by the occasion. I thought he competed well with the centre-backs. But I thought, unfortunately, it just wasn't a great day for him. It wasn't a great day for Spurs. So we couldn't get him involved as much as we should have. He got himself sent off. He'll learn from it. It was a disappointing yellow card sending off. I think one of the yellows was soft. The second yellow probably warranted. But after scoring his first goal for Spurs, first professional goal, to be sent off like that in a big European game will be disappointing. But I was encouraged enough by his performance to tell me that, keep your head up, and there's going to be a lot more game time for you and a lot more opportunities to impress, because he got his goal in a tough atmosphere, good movement from him for the goal, and at least it shows his willingness to be up for the fight and stick his foot in. And he'll have to learn about being overzealous and maybe being a bit too energetic, but I think there are a lot more positives than negatives despite the red card for Will Lancashire yesterday. But surprisingly, red card happens, and all of a sudden we bring on, I think it was, who do we bring after the red card? We bring on Pat Matej, we bring on Dom Solanke, which reinforced as well by Kulusevski and Bentancur, who came on at half-time. And despite the fact we went down to 10 men, considering the level of chances we conceded when we was 11v11, you would have thought, going down to 10 men on the hour mark, after being absolutely battered for much of the game, you'd feared the worst. But actually things actually improved when we went down to 10 men. All of a sudden, we had players on the pitch who are more capable on the ball, more experienced, were able to actually play through Galatasaray a bit more. Maybe, I don't know if it was Galatasaray thought the game was won at that point because that we were down to 10 men and they were out thoroughly dominant. Maybe they took their foot off the gas and got complacent, but we actually improved when we were down to 10 men. We got the goal back. Kulusevski links up well with Porro down the right-hand side. He plays a beautiful ball across the face of the goal. Solanke does so well to get in front of Sanchez. Brilliant movement and a brilliant finish with his back heel into the empty net. And all of a sudden, we're back in the game. And I thought in those last 20 minutes, we did make things uncomfortable for Galatasaray. Even with 10 men, they didn't really threaten us as much as they were in for the first hour. Maybe they were tiring. Maybe they got complacent. Icardi went down with an ACL, which was revealed today. He had a bad injury and looks like he's going to be ruled out for the season with it. Osimhen got taken off. Maybe he was feeling tired as well. And all of a sudden, we were the ones breaking their lines. Bentancur was really striking his stuff, I felt, in those last 20 minutes. I was really impressed with him. And Basuma really stepping up for the team. Solanke providing an outlet up front as well, holding the ball up, giving Sanchez some trouble, winning corners, causing problems. Kulusevski, hanging on to the ball and was causing problems. We had our one big chance pretty much in that second half where a long ball gets played through to Dom Solanke. Muslera comes out to clear, but heads it only in the path of Kulusevski from about 45 yards out, and he has a chance to score from an empty net on 70 from the empty net, but unfortunately it gets put wide. We did have another chance. Sarr created a 3-on-2 situation. All he had to do was play it through to one of Kulusevski or Solanke. Just too much power on the pass and the chance was gone, but it was a big opening there. And as you can see, we created 1.16 XG in that second half, and a lot of that was with 10 men. And obviously we got the goal. That was a high XG chance as well. Had 4 shots. Obviously Galatasaray still by and large quite dominant with a 1.61 XG, 17 shots total, 4 big chances. They did miss a large number of big chances in that second half, but I have to give credit to Spurs, who showed a bit of fight in that second half when we went down to 10 men to try and get themselves back in the game. And on another night, maybe they would have found a way back in with some of the opportunities and openings we did have. So we did show fight. We looked like there might have been a chance in there for us in those last 20 minutes. It wasn't to be, but there was something we can take out of the game, despite the fact that we, for large parts of it, sloppy, overawed by the occasion, crumbling in that intense atmosphere. We did show a bit of fight near the end, and we did show a bit of bottle, and we nearly we nearly came back from 2 goals behind with 10 men, and I think we deserve a little bit of credit for that. And it's quite interesting. It's a very odd game because on the day, if you look at the stats, right, total shots for Galatasaray, 28 shots to Tottenham's 5 shots. All 5 of our shots were on target. Were on target with 2 goals and 3 saves by the Galatasaray keeper. What's interesting is 28 shots, 8 big chances to Tottenham's 2. But the XG, considering the level of chances for both sides, is remarkably similar. 3.13 XG for Galatasaray, which is a big number. But we had 2.01 from 5 shots. I can't remember the last time we had such a large XG figure from such a low shot total, which is quite remarkable when you look at that. One must be very high XG to shot ratio. Obviously Lancashire and Solanke were 2 tap-ins, so those contribute to the high XG figures. I think Lancashire had a decent opportunity in that second half as well, but the level of chances that Galatasaray made, the amount of shots they had, and Forster made many saves. 3 of our shots were on target. 3 of our 5 shots, not all of them. I was misreading that. Obviously, Galatasaray had Forster into many saves. But the XG total actually quite similar. Burek says Tottenham easy goals. We scored, I guess, high quality chances, and you would have thought the XG would have been a lot bigger differential. It was only 1 difference, but obviously that was the game. 3-2 was a 1 goal difference, but we deserved to lose. We did deserve to lose, and it was disappointing performance overall. But going to this game, I would be a hypocrite if I said, I was super disappointed with the loss and like it's a real big step back, because before the game I made it clear that my priority in this game is to manage a squad, not come away with too damaging a result, and just move on from it, because it's going to be a very difficult day. And that's so it proved. I think we can take some positives. Lancashire got his goal. We can take positives how we reacted to going down to 10 men as well, and the fact that we made a game of it, made it 3-2, nearly got a result. And listening to Ange today, we came through the game unscathed. I was worried about Porro because I thought he was running on empty near the end there, but Ange says he came through unscathed. I think protecting Son and Johnson was the right thing to do. We're still in the top 8 of the Europa League. And looking at the standings here, we're 7th at the moment in the standings, so still in those automatic qualification places for the Europa League. So for me, it's not too damaging defeat. It's one of those you got to take on the chin and move on. I don't think it changes too much for me personally. The worries, I guess, Dragoshin at the back, he looked really out of sorts and couldn't play on the ball. Big reason why we were giving up a lot of chances. Bergvall definitely looked out of his depth and got overruled by the occasion. I'm a big fan of his, and I'm one who I think I think this season he's come under a lot of unwarranted criticism for some of his displays. I actually think he's been pretty good for an 18-year-old by and large this season, but yesterday it was terrible. There's no sugarcoating it. It was a poor performance from him, and he couldn't keep the ball. He couldn't find his teammates. He crumbled a bit, but it's a learning experience, so hopefully he'll take away things from that. I thought Lancashire was a positive despite the red card. He'll be disappointed with that, but I thought he got his goal and proved a bit of a handful for the Galatasaray backline. And at times when we did get the ball in the final third, he looked dangerous and looked like he could do something. So he was a positive. Maddison, disappointing. And I think the overall performance was disappointing. But as I say, thankfully, given the new format, not too damaging, still leaves ourselves in a strong position going into the rest of the Europa League games halfway through. We're still in the top 8, which you need for automatic qualification. And I think we can brush ourselves down, dust ourselves off, and move on from this game. It was always going to be our hardest game in the group stage as well. I think we all earmarked this game as probably the game where we would struggle the most, and the game where, if you pointed to one game in our Europa League campaign where you felt we were probably going to drop points, everyone probably would have pointed to this one. And so it proved. So we managed to squad rest of the players. I do think if we had a full strength team out there, it would have been a different story, because I do think Bentancur and Basuma came on and made a material difference. Bentancur came on and made a big difference. I do think if it was played at our place, it could have been a different story as well. But it's just something we're going to have to take on the chin and learn from. But I don't think it's something that is too damaging to our Europa League campaign or our season. And thankfully, the players on Sunday will be available to really make an impact. If we can win that game, I think this game will be quickly forgotten. So that is the match review. That is my thoughts on the Galatasaray game. I don't think it's too damaging for us. Let's look at some comments before we get into the player ratings. Leighton Evelyn saying, LMAO, you said he was a generational great. I think you're talking about Bergvall. I think he's a really talented player. I think he's going to have a big career at Tottenham. But yesterday he was poor. It's just a bad game. You have to take it on the chin, and he has to learn from it. But I do think he's going to be a very big player for us in the future. We gain nothing. Louis Mikroot says we gain nothing from getting first place in this phase of Europa League. It's better to focus on the Premier League. We do get a bit. It just means we might get a bit of an easier draw. But apart from that, I think it doesn't make too much difference, because we should back ourselves against anyone. But if we finish in the top 8, we're always going to get a more easier draw anyway. So finishing top doesn't make too much difference. Super chat from Faith Akaya says, it's hell for you, but paradise for us. Guessing he's a Turkish Galatasaray fan. Is what it is. We struggled. We struggled in the game. And it wasn't the best performance from Spurs. Galatasaray well deserved the win. If anything, it flattered us. But, there were some positives, and we only lost by 1 goal at the end of the day. And let's hope that we can learn lessons from this game. But the more important thing is we came for unscathed, and hopefully we can be fully fit for the Ipswich game on Sunday. Arif Birol says, Tottenham lost the game at the first minute, having seen the hell criticise yourself a little and prepare your team for the sort of stadiums you're watching all home games like a theatre. Make some noise. Yeah, I think we definitely struggled in the game. I think you're right. Talk about the stats of the game. Yeah, I did. Fair play to Galatasaray. They did batter us a bit. Joe Thelwa, enjoy the weekend, guys. It was a good game. It could have been 9-2. Good luck next game, Gala fan. Yeah, thank you for joining the chat. Galatasaray deserved to win, much the better team. I did expect that going into the game, to be honest. And so it proved. But yeah, I expected a loss. We got a loss. Thankfully, the scoreline wasn't as bad as the game probably was. But, it's all a learning process. You said you don't want to get battered, even though the score doesn't suggest that. Did we get battered? I mean, the scoreline is 3-2. And that's the score. We got battered in the game, but it was only 3-2. So at least the scoreline was somewhat respectable. So we didn't actually get battered in the scoreline, and that's the important thing. So we come away with something to show for it. I mean, with no points, but it wasn't totally negative. There were some positives to suggest out late in the game. Gala fans are so weird. You ain't Real Madrid. All right. Who is ready for some player ratings? Got 383 people in the chat. Big up to everyone watching. Ethan Edwinson says, Sem, do you think... Where is that? Sim, do you think it seemed like we threw the match? I wouldn't know, because obviously I wouldn't say we threw it, because we started with quite a strong team, especially Solanke, Son, Johnson. Not Solanke, sorry, Son and Johnson up front. Porro obviously started. Still the likes of Maddison, Basuma, these important players. So I don't think it was a totally weak team, but I think we definitely prioritised Sunday. I think half-time, the subs of Johnson and Son proved that. We were protecting them for Sunday because they're the only wingers we have available, and we can't afford to get them injured. So I think there was a part of it where we were willing to make sacrifice in this game for the long term and for Sunday as well, which is a more important game in my opinion. But I wouldn't say we threw the game. I think we tried to win it, and late in the game that showed that we tried to get something out of it, and we worked really, really hard to do so. But we could have played a stronger team potentially. Maybe there could have been a different result. But I think we have to manage the squad, and we have to make sure that we're keeping ourselves at good levels each game. And unfortunately in this game the changes probably proved too much, but maybe you could argue we're willing to lose this game in the service of the long-term season. But I don't think we went into this game just throwing it away. Sim, do you think Radu will ever be able to play from the back, or is he an old school defender who does not play from the back? Look, the guy is 22. He's 21, 22. He's very young. All these players can definitely improve, and all these players have a scope to improve. He's bad at playing on the ball right now. And to be fair, we've got someone on the opposite side of the pitch in Davinson Sanchez who did have that problem a lot when he was at Spurs, and he got hounded out for it, to be honest, and he never really improved. So there is a defender who's evidence that maybe he might not improve, but I think hopefully down the line there'll be improvements for Radu, and he can, because I do think there's a good defender there, but he definitely had his struggles yesterday, really struggled on the ball. All right, let's get into some player ratings, and we will start with Fraser Forster. I gave him a 6. SofaScore gave him a 7. Obviously Ben is on a plane, so we're not going to go with Ben's rating, but I'm going to go with SofaScore. So for me, Fraser Forster, look, lots of saves. I'm going to credit where credit's due. He had a lot to deal with in this game. Osimhen probably went through about 3 times. He had to make a big save from Osimhen, like 3 times. Most of all one-on-one, making himself big, and Osimhen hit it straight at him. He made one save from Osimhen when the ball came across the face of goal and he was diving the wrong way and got his foot to the ball. So I do think there was some good saves in there, but it does seem like Forster has to rely on making himself big and the ball hitting him, and he is a big guy. So I mean, it's not the worst tactic in the world. 6'6", a goalkeeper just makes himself big and hopes the ball hits him. It's not the worst tactic, and it did work on 5 occasions, but the goals we conceded just seems as though anything to the side of him and he can't get to it. The first one, great strike by Akjun, but it's not completely in the corner. I do think Fraser Forster's slow to react to it. Probably should have kept it out. Does get a big hand to it, and I do think Vicario saves that. Second goal, it's a toe poke from a pass in from Osimhen. I do think it's a clinical finish, so I'm not going to mark him down too much for that. But third goal, it's a soft side foot from Osimhen. He is slow to get down. He is slow to get to his left. Again, I think Vicario has a much better chance of saving that. I know it's in the corner, but there wasn't much pace on it. I think a keeper with faster reactions might have a good chance of saving that. Forster doesn't even dive until it's pretty much past him, and doesn't hold me much confidence. And there was another moment where a set piece, a free kick comes towards him. He comes to claim and he flaps at it, and the ball drops in the middle of the box, and Bentancur has to clear it off the line. So I gave him a 6 because he made so many saves. The volume of saves was impressive, but I do think he could have done better with the goals, and there were some other moments where he doesn't really cover himself in much glory. And as well, I think there's a majority of the saves are saves you expect him to make, or saves where the ball has hit him. So I gave him a 6 out of 10. Pedro Porro next. I gave him a 7. SofaScore gave him a 7.5. I think he was probably the only player who was able to play out the back a bit. He obviously got his assist for Solanke's goal with a really good ball across the face goal. I thought he worked so hard throughout this game, especially when we went down to 10 men, putting in the hard yards, running up and down the pitch tirelessly, doing some great defending when we were being caught on the counter-attack. As I say, he got forward and got his assist, and I thought on the ball, making some good passes, was one of the only ones who showed a bit of quality on the day. So 7 out of 10 for Pedro Porro. Next up, Radu Dragushin, 3 for me, 5.8 for SofaScore. Yeah, terrible day for him. He struggled to deal with Osimhen, who was running rings around him. Anytime they got in on our goal, Osimhen was just running in behind, and Dragushin had no answer to it. I think the second goal as well, terrible piece of play from him. Ball comes to him, and he just lets the ball. Second time he's done this, let the ball run across him without any kind of thought of appreciation for where any of the opposition players are. He lets the ball run across him, and there was a Galatasaray player ready and waiting to pinch it off him, and he did, and it caused the second goal. Osimhen run off him for the third goal. Countless chances given up on the ball, just so sloppy. I thought a number of occasions as well, a long ball's played in his direction, and he's got ability to head the ball in the direction of a Tottenham player. Didn't find him. Disappointing on that occasion as well. Terrible day at the office for Radu Dragushin, so I gave him a 3. Next up, Ben Davies. I gave him a 4. Also struggled, didn't have as many struggles playing out the back as Dragushin did, albeit still wasn't at the top of his game. Also, just allowed Icardi and Dragushin and Osimhen to just have the freedom of the penalty area to work in. A lot's had to do with the lack of coverage from midfield, understandable, but I also think the centre-backs will just run rings around by the two strikers, and they couldn't deal with them, and it was really, really tough for Davies to get a foothold in the back line. I do think if Van de Ven was there as well, maybe he catches up to Osimhen for that second goal and or blocks the shot, and Davies wasn't able to do that. Osimhen was able to get the shot before Davies comes charging in. So, disappointed from Davies, 4 out of 10. For Archie Gray, left back on this occasion, 6 out of 10. SofaScore gave him 6.3. Not too bad from Archie. I thought he did have his struggles on the left-hand side, and their winger, Yilmaz, on the right-hand side was giving him some trouble running down the line. Mertens was giving him trouble in that half space. I thought in the one-on-one situations didn't do too bad, and as well, for the first goal, brilliant pass to Brendan Johnson, who plays it across the face to Lancashire for the goal. Brilliant pass from Gray, really was, really well timed, and right into the path of Brendan, who didn't have to break stride, he can take it first time. So that was good, but defensively, it wasn't his best day. He did struggle quite a bit. So I gave him a 6 out of 10. Yves Bissouma in TDM, 7 for me, 6.3 for SofaScore. I think a good second half from him. Really stepped up when we went down to 10 men. Started to show a bit more authority and responsibility on the ball. Started to play around the Galatasaray team, and that's maybe what got us a foothold in the game. First half was just as bad as many of the other players. Giving the ball away, was weak, wasn't aware of where players were, wasn't helping out the defence anywhere near enough, and it led to Tottenham being very, very open. So 7 out of 10 for Yves Bissouma. James Maddison, 3 out of 10. Terrible performance from him. Sloppy, unforced errors. It was just all over the place. There were some nice moments with him when he was able to get his foot on the ball and use his dribbling ability. There was a few times he kind of opened up the space and asked different questions of Galatasaray, but that was on too few occasions, and more often than not, he would either make an unforced error in passing out the back, or nothing would come of his movements, or he would just get bullied and fouled out the game, to be honest. And that was very frustrating to watch. Galatasaray kicked lumps out of him. I think he got fouled 3 times on the day, but wasn't able to impact the game in a positive way and was probably rightly shipped off. What I would say is in the second half, him at left wing is not something I want to see. I don't think he suits left wing in an Ange system, and I think we saw that yesterday. Big struggles he had playing out wide. So gave him a 3 out of 10. Lucas Bergvall. Unfortunately, I also give him a 3 out of 10. SofaScore gave him a 6.1, but I just thought he was dreadful, to be honest. He just couldn't keep the ball for love nor money. Was overawed by the occasion. I thought he was bullied in the middle of the park. They were getting tackles on him. He was giving away silly free kicks. No quality on the ball. He really struggled to assert himself in this game and kind of be part of a team keeping possession. And I thought he should have been hooked at half time. I thought he was dreadful. Second half wasn't much better. It's just one of those where he had a very poor game. Not to say he's not a player with high potential. I'm still a big fan of his, but disappointing game for Lucas Bergvall. Really poor from him. And he gave the ball away pretty much every time he got it, to be honest. So 3 out of 10 for Lucas Bergvall. Next up, Brennan Johnson. I give him a 6 out of 10. Good assist for Will Lancashire. Got him behind, laid it on a plate for him. Really good timing of the run, a really good cross. Played a really good ball through to Lancashire as well in that first half, which Lancashire took way too long to get a shot off, and it was eventually blocked. But he did get his assist. He also worked quite hard, but wasn't his best game, so gave him a 6 out of 10 for that performance. Next up, I'm going to go Will Lancashire, and he also gets a 6 out of 10, and he got his goal. Did prove a bit of a handful for the Galatasaray backline. Really difficult, performance playing against a back three of Sanchez, Ayan and Bardacci. And, you wouldn't have blamed him for struggling. And I actually thought he impacted the game quite well. Got his goal, took it really well. Good timing of the run to get square with Brennan and finished it into the back of the net. Had another chance when Decky, small interchange in the opposition area, plays a little dink through ball to Lancashire, who turned and swiveled and shot. But unfortunately, Muslera was equal to it, was able to hang on to it. Then came the moment where he got sent off, a bit overzealous. I thought the first one was harsh. He does take a little look at the defender, but I don't think there's too much of an arm there from him. I don't think it deserves a yellow card, maybe just a free kick. And then second one, I did think it was a yellow. Takes a good swipe at him. I think it was Akajid who gets the wrong side of him. He tried to win the ball back and he just kicks him in the shin, in the ankle, sorry. And it's a second yellow, and before you know it, he's off. And it was two yellows in a quick succession, wasn't it? Got the first one in 53 and the second in 60. So 2 quick yellows, and he was off. And really disappointing end to the day, because I actually thought he played quite well. But positive that he did seem a bit of a nuisance, and definitely we got a player there. So look, keep your head up, Will. I know you got a red card, now it's a disappointing end, but don't think about that. Think about the goal you scored and keep your confidence up. Next up, Heung-min Son, taken over half-time, 6 out of 10 for me. Looked all right, actually. There was actually one moment where he nutmegged the Galatasaray midfielder, set up a chance, which I think was where the goal came from. First half as well, he was finding himself in some decent spaces, but unfortunately the move was breaking down a lot of the time. There was one moment where it was a 2-on-2, and he gets played a long ball to, and he just took a poor touch, to be honest, and allowed the Galatasaray defenders to get back in position, which was disappointing. Wasn't his best game again. There were signs where he could hurt Galatasaray, and I still think he's looking sharper, to be honest, than he was before his injury, but wasn't able to impact the game in the way we wanted him to. Next up, Dejan Kulusevski, 6s for me, and 6.3 on SofaScore. I think he had a good cameo. I think he improved us, to be honest, allowed us to keep the ball a bit better. He'll be disappointed that he had that chance from 40 yards where it was a long-range shot, and after Solanke was nearly played to him, and that was probably Tottenham's best chance to get back in the game at 3-2 at that point, down to 10 men. But Decky definitely helped the team, allowed us to sustain a bit of pressure and keep the ball, and I don't think we would be as effective with 10 men if it wasn't for him. So gave him a 6 out of 10. Going with now Rodrigo Bentancur, I gave him an 8. Actually, a really strong cameo from Bentancur. there are times where he had 2 or 3 players around him, was able to play through their press, and which allowed us to, create openings against a team who had an extra man. He almost played like 2 men in that cameo. A lot of ball covering, a lot of ability to win the ball back, but also his ability to be press resistant and play through Galatasaray's press was impressive. And I thought on a number of occasions he showed his dribbling ability and really nearly took the game to Galatasaray. Unfortunately, was not enough, seeing as we had a man less, but I thought he had a brilliant cameo, so 8 out of 10. Next up, Pathé Sarr, 6 out of 10. A lot of energy in the game, definitely allowed us to get a foothold with his running. Quality on the ball on this occasion wasn't quite there. There was a couple of occasions where he broke the lines of the Galatasaray backline and actually committed a few of their players, but then plays a poor ball to Kulusevski, where if the ball was correct, would have been a chance. But definitely his energy and his legs added quite a bit to Spurs, so 6 out of 10. And last but not least, the playing players, Dom Solanke, I gave a 7 out of 10. Really well taken goal, back heel in the centre of the goal. Good movement to get ahead of Davinson Sanchez as well. You just watch his movement if the goal. Just watch him where Porro gets the ball, just breaking his neck to get ahead of Sanchez. Sanchez doesn't know how to pick him up. He gets ahead of him, and obviously the back heel is a really good finish. And I thought he did some quite good stuff, giving some problems for Galatasaray in their backline. Sanchez had to think a lot about where Solanke was, and a few times he looked like he was getting the better of them physically, so that was decent from Dom. That was the last of the players, and Ange I'm going to give a 5 to. Look, at the end of the day, it was a really poor performance, and we can't get away from that. Whatever team we put out, you need to hope that we have a certain level of performance. We didn't nowhere near reach that yesterday. But the fact that we improved a bit with late rally with 10 men, and I think as well that he managed the squad to make sure that we're keeping certain players fit and on ice, is really important. And I think for me, the priority is Sunday. I think it's very important we keep players fresh, and it's very important that not only that we keep players fresh, but we don't overwork certain players in certain positions like our winger. And we had to keep managing players like Son and Galatasaray, their workload at the moment, because we can't overwork them while all our wingers are currently out injured. We've got to be careful with them. So Sunday's a big game. So I do think he did the right thing with the squad he put out. You need to be able to manage a squad, and at the end of the day, and as much as we lost, it's not too much of a consequential loss, and we can take lessons from it. It's good experiences for the likes of Gray, Lancashire and Bergvall. They'll learn from these experiences. I think they will take a lot away from this, so that will aid their development. And he gave opportunities to players who maybe wouldn't have got opportunities, so I think that needs to be done. And unfortunately, it didn't mean we didn't get the result, but and it was a poor performance, but still a few positives to take away from what was such a disappointing game. So gave him a 5 out of 10 for Ange Postecoglou. And those are your player ratings. Chant Enkub says Ange for his halftime subs were poor. For me, in terms of trying to get a result in this game, yes, they were poor. In terms of managing the squad, I did think they have to be done. And if it means we end up losing this game, so be it. But we need to protect Son and Johnson to make sure we got the best chance of winning on Sunday. And at 3-1 down, very little chance we'll get him back in the game anyway. I said at half-time, take Son off and just keep him on ice. And that's exactly what he did. Maybe he read my text. Brecken says, I wouldn't mind having to play against Galatasaray again later down the line in the Europa League with our starting fullbacks. I think best 11 versus best 11, we can take them. I do. I think we showed with 10 men, they're not all that. They can be played through with maybe more confident players. I think you take them back to our place, we'll do them. We can do them easily. Clearly a good team. I think those front two make a big difference. Osimhen and Icardi, who's obviously out now, but those front two can make a big difference and are very hard to deal with. But as much as they're hard to deal with, I think we can definitely, given our best 11, get the better of them over two legs if we do have to do that later down the line. All right. Galatasaray have better strikers than Barca, and we play with Ricky and Son. KEKW. I don't know what that means, but we play with. Well, Richarlison was injured, so I don't play with him. And Son is brilliant. I don't know what's wrong with Son. Brilliant striker, brilliant player. All right, let's move on. We have Reacts coming up next. Let me see how many people are watching at the moment. 443 people watching. Big up to everyone in the chat. I hope everyone's having a good Friday. Still got reacts to do. We got the match preview coming up and predicted lineup for Sunday. Tal Sebut Kolu says Galatasaray almost best striker in the world in Osimhen, Icardi and Batshuayi. Yeah, 3 very good strikers. Very true. All right. Let's get reacts up, and this is how the internet did react to the defeat to Galatasaray. BLTHFC says 58% pass completion from Dragusin today. That's more concerning than the defending, which is in part due to non-existent midfield. Also rushes his passes and headers with 0 pressure. Doesn't help calm the team down. Look. Dragusin wasn't getting help yesterday from a lot of players, I felt. First of all, he's getting partnered by Ben Davies. As much as I think Ben Davies is done well for us, it's not the ideal partner. He wasn't getting any help from the likes of Bergvall, Maddison to the level that he should have been getting help, or Basuma even. And no one, and any time anyone was showing for the ball, any pass from Radu going into midfield was just getting cut out. And it wasn't just because it was sloppy passing. I think the players he was passing to were lacking fight and aggression to kind of stop those balls going through. So I agree, though. There's tendencies now from Dragusin which needs to be cut out of his game. His tendency to let the ball run across him without being aware of where players are, getting caught on the ball in poor positions, and his passing is not good enough. It's fair to say it's just not good enough. Sloppy, not accurate enough, not crisp enough as well. So there are definitely question marks about Dragusin. Last couple of games he's played very well, but mostly defensively, not on the ball. He still looked a bit awkward on the ball. So that is something that needs to improve, and until it does, there will still be question marks about him in that position. BR Football says life comes at you fast, and this is in response to Lancashire getting his arms out to the Galatasaray fans and then obviously being sent off. Joe says, nice one, BR Football. He's quite literally 19. I agree. Why are you lumping on a teenager and piling on and getting people to make fun of him? This is a teenager making his way at Tottenham, scored a goal in one of his first European games, and yes, it didn't work out for him with the red card, but this is a big football account on football Twitter, and they're basically trying to get people to pile on a teenager. I mean, it's not great form, and I don't like to see that. And fair play for Joe to calling it out. And look, big up to Lancashire for scoring that goal, and he'll have to learn from that red card. But I actually thought did some good stuff yesterday. Zeus says, even hit the celebration. Lancashire. Big up to Will Lancashire copying the Alan Shearer celebration there. Will Lancashire. Hopefully first of many goals for Tottenham Hotspur. And as I say, maybe with Richie out after his performance yesterday, I actually think, Ange will see that. And as much as he got the red card, hopefully he will see that performance with a view of, getting more chances to impress for Tottenham maybe in the league in place of Richarlison up front. THFCRT says, never forget when top bids were calling for Dragusin to start over Romero in the league. Romero is and always has been our best centre-back. We have so many clueless fans. I kind of agree that Romero has to be playing over Dragusin, as much as I think Dragusin can be good. Like what Romero offers us on the ball is just so vital to our play. If he's fit, he just has to play. And we've seen now with Romero out and Dragusin playing, he just doesn't offer what we need on the ball. And beyond that, he can be a bit of a liability. So on the ball, that is. So I think Romero is very, very important. Billy T. Big up to Billy T. Says, no tactical expert, but thinking marking Osimhen might be a good idea. I mean, hopefully that was discussed, because it didn't seem like it during the game. Osimhen had 4 big chances during that game, Osimhen. It just seemed like he had 2 goals, 4 big chances. I think we just really couldn't get near him. And every time they got the ball in our final third, he was running off us. He was getting in behind. We were really struggling to contain him. It was too easy for Victor Osimhen, to be honest. So could have done with marking him, to be honest. Jay Andrew says Basuma is a tricky one because 11v11 it didn't click and wasn't right. However, 11v10 he played excellently and helped massively. At 3-1 with 10 men, can argue pressure is off, but could also argue we could have lost 5 or 6. So it'll be something to fight for. Fascinating. Yeah, that's what I was saying about yesterday. Interesting game. Yes, we deserved to lose by a bigger margin, but the fact we were down to 10 men and 2 goals down and actually made a game of it, got a goal back and could have even got a goal late on and made it 3-3. You got to have a bit of a bit of something positive to say about the fight we showed near the end. But at the end of the day, the scoreline did flatter us and it was a disappointing performance. But at least we showed some fight. It wasn't all bad, so we have something to take away from it. Seb Martin says, a fully fit Bentancur starts in our best midfield every day of the week, by the way. Showed again today, coming on tonight, how important he is. It seems to be we to and fro every week between Bentancur and Basuma, who's better. I think that we have 2 very good midfielders there. I think Bentancur is more disciplined in that number 6, and when he's at his best, I do think he's better than Basuma. Albeit when Basuma's at his best, he can be a formidable opponent as well. But I do think Basuma has his lapses in concentration that Bentancur doesn't quite have in his game, in my opinion. So it's a good debate, well, who's better? But I think it's a good debate, and it just shows we have 2 good players there. I think I might prefer Bentancur for right now, just because he's more disciplined and we don't get caught out as much, I feel like, when he's there. But Basuma, we all know when he's at his very best, he could be as good as a lot of top midfielders in the league. Alex, your expert, says you can tell teams have a coordinated plan for Tottenham's build-up now. They know they keep their 2 centre-backs deep and isolated. Galatasaray lay the trap before pressing Dragusin blindside. It's excellent opposition analysis. Lily White Lab quote retweeting that, saying this only works when Romero isn't playing. If you press Romero in this manner, he breaks the press with ease, and if you got the whole front line taken out of the game, this is why I say Dragusin doesn't fit the system. He's not good enough on the ball despite being a very good box defender. I think I kind of agree. I do think Spurs do need to help their centre-backs out a bit more, even when Romero's on the pitch. I think we're too far away from them a lot of the time, and that puts a lot of pressure on the centre-backs to find good, quality, clever passes and also do it quickly when they're being put under pressure. But I do think Romero is very good at that, and I do think Romero doesn't get caught on the ball for that second goal like Dragusin does. And I think as much as our system allows for the opposition to put us under pressure, I think Romero is very good at relieving that pressure, so he doesn't get caught out as much. Lily White Rose with posting a picture of all Lancashire. Absolutely love this picture, and shows maybe the confidence he has to do that away in a hostile crowd like Galatasaray. So big up to Will getting his goal and showing his confidence as well. Solanke in the Europa League so far this season, 3 goal contributions in 4 games. Nice finish from him, by the way, and made a really good impact, and has been quite clinical in Europa League games so far this season, so fair play to him. Well played, Dom Solanke, and look, he's getting his act together in the Premier League as well in terms of goal contributions. Trevor Basuma says, I love this Tottenham team, and Ange, I really don't care what anyone thinks. It's the most I've cared since peak Pochettino era anyway, and I think it's probably on the ball anyway the best we've been since the peak Pochettino era. So look, yesterday, that doesn't change anything for me. I think we still got the same ambition in this competition, which is to win it, and that doesn't affect it. I think Europa Premier League results and performances are starting to turn and improve. So I'm really encouraged by the direction we're going in, and I think we're going in a good direction. Johnny H, who was in the studio yesterday with Brian Daigle, says pre-match with Brian Daigle just before we went live on We Are Tottenham TV. Unfortunately, Spurs were taught a lesson by Galatasaray. In my humble opinion, it should have been a double pivot midfield with Bentancur and Basuma to protect our makeshift defence, and our half-time subs were a huge mistake. I just think, for me, when we're looking at what was that the best team to go out there and get a result? Probably not. Did we have to manage a squad, and do we have to risk losing a game for the sake of squad management so that we don't come away with too many injuries and we're fresh for Sunday? I was willing to take that risk, me personally. I understand if you're of the opinion that it wasn't worth taking the risk and we needed the points in this game, and it's more important to keep up momentum of good results rather than keeping the squad fresh. That's also a valid opinion, and maybe that's what Johnny's thinking. I, for one, think managing the squad was probably more important in this game, and we were always likely to lose this game, even with our best 11, and it's a valuable experience that these young players will get. So I was willing to risk losing this game for the sake of the long-term benefits we'll get from managing the squad here. Alfie says, doing this to hell at 19, #aura. Big up to Alfie. Another great picture of Will Lancashire getting his arms out, doing the Bellingham, I think that's what you call it. Talking THFC says, Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. Last week, this is for the therapist from The Sopranos, saying, last week you mentioned that we're back, but today you tell me it's over. What changed? It's just classic Tottenham Hotspur. We're always, from week to week, never know what you're going to get. Harry Brooks, big up to him. He says, Bentancur or Basuma, and Basuma, leaders in how they take responsibility on the ball. Even if nothing else is around them, they will do as much as they can to make something positive happen and positively affect the game, even if it puts them at risk of making a mistake. I'll be honest, I've never understood why so many fans think Spurs need a 6. Having them as two options alongside Gray and then Tyrese Hall coming up, that's a top quality mix. I kind of agree. I think a 6 isn't the most essential position. Like I said this at the start in the summer. Obviously, if we can get an upgrade in any position, I would take it. And obviously, if we've got good players in certain positions, but if there's an upgrade there, if we can sign Van Dijk, I'd sign him. I'd want him, but doesn't mean I think Romero needs to be upgraded or Van de Ven. If we can sign, Trent Alexander-Arnold, yeah, I'd sign it. But we've got Porro, who's a very good right back. I don't think signing a right back is that completely necessary. If we could sign Vinicius Jr., I would sign him, but we have Son there at the moment, and I don't think an upgrade on Son is massively necessary. And I had the same feeling about Bentancur and Basuma. Yes, if we could sign Zubimendi or a top quality number 6, I would do that, and I would try and upgrade that position if we could. But we do have two very good 6s there. We do have two very good central midfielders who they would play for a lot of good teams, and they are top 6 players, whether we like or not. Those are two very good 6 options. And I wasn't so mad about not getting a number 6 as much as you could argue, could we upgrade that position? Do we need to upgrade? Maybe, but those are two very good options in the 6, and two players who could do the job if they share the load. And I think they're doing a fine job this season, and I'm happy with their performances. And I think they offered two good things, but I think they're doing very well. Carly on you Spurs says, are you kidding me with that finish? Quality from Solanke. Big up to him. Lovely back heel, and got us back in the game. Really good. What will go under the radar is a brilliant movement just ahead of Sanchez. Made sure he turned the ball home as well. Nathan Clark says, on the ball, Sanchez had a significantly better half than Radi Dragushin, by the way. Yeah, I have to agree. Sanchez was so much better than Dragushin, and that was a player that we hounded out. So good point. And Dragushin is going to have to improve, but he's a lot younger, so hopefully he's got the scope to improve. But Sanchez was impressive. Looks like he's improved a lot since leaving Spurs. John McKenzie says, say what you like about Spurs, but I think that's the highest XG total, 110.77, that I've ever seen from just 3 shots. Yeah, I have to say, it was very, very high. It just shows the quality of chances we did create with the little chances we had, the quality was very, very high. So that was a positive. Harry Brooks again says, Archie Gray is a pure footballer. Love how he disguised that clip pass in behind, and the technique is delivered spot on. Have to agree. Brilliant pass from Archie Gray. Hopefully a lot more to come from him. Look, difficult day again from him at left back, but had that moment of quality that he can take away from the game in a very tough game, tough atmosphere. Him and Lancashire had their moments they can take away from that game, to say that they stood up in certain moments in that game in tough conditions and provided quality moments, and hopefully they'll learn from those moments. So look, that is it from Reacts for the game against Galatasaray. And look, it was a difficult day. Just to round off thoughts on that game, difficult day. We'll take away what we can take away from it in terms of positives, and hopefully we can move on and learn lessons from what was a very difficult day yesterday in the Europa League. Let's see some comments before we get into a preview for the Ipswich game, which is a very big game when it comes to what it means for us in the Premier League. And Sunday does turn into a very big game. If we play home, we can score more and have momentum with us as eventual mindset. Yeah, I think so. And in regards to Galatasaray, I agree. I thought Sanchez was actually good in those few games before he left Spurs. That's actually not a bad point. Just before he left, he definitely was showing signs of improvement, but having been so poor for so long, it's difficult to justify, thinking he was going to turn into a player who was going to really fit the squad. But I agree, he did show signs of improvement late in his Spurs career while Ange was there, and especially in pre-season. I remember he played quite well. All right, so let's get into the match preview. Spurs do take on Ipswich, winless Ipswich on Sunday. Kickoff is at 2 p.m. and going into this game, let's look at the form going into this game, because Spurs going into it off the back of a defeat, but in the Premier League, we've beaten Aston Villa in the last game. We have won, I think, 4 out of our 5 home games this season. You look at Ipswich, lost 3 of their last 5 away games, drawn 2, conceded 13 in their last 5, only scored 7. Although, we've only scored 9 in our last 5, conceding 6. Our home form is 5 wins on the trot in all competitions. Formidable home form coming into this game against Ipswich. And Ipswich have obviously struggled to acclimatise to the Premier League, it's fair to say. They've taken heavy defeats away at Man City 4-1, away at West Ham 4-1 as well. But to their credit, there have also been some impressive points. Away at Brighton, got a 0-0 draw. They drew at home to Fulham, who are no mugs. They've been doing well this season. And as well, in the last 2 games, if it wasn't for 90th minute goals, they would have got 4 points, and last minute goals have cost them 4 points in their last 2 games. So, also drew at home to Ipswich 2-2 as well. Drew at home to Aston Villa 2-2. So, draws to Aston Villa, draws to Brighton, draws to Fulham. That tells me that this is not a team to be taken too lightly, and it's also not a team that are just going to roll over. They have gotten points in games against some really good teams, and points against teams where, like in terms of Brighton, we've dropped points to them, and they got a point against them. So that was Brighton away from home. They kept a clean sheet. They were able to keep them out for 90 minutes, get a 0-0 draw. That suggests to me it's not necessarily going to be plain sailing, but there is also games where there's evidence that they can crumble if they go behind, and if they are under the cosh too much, they can be hit quickly. Against Man City, took the lead after 7 minutes. By minute 16, they were 3-1 down. They crumbled. Against West Ham, they conceded in the first minute, equalised on the 6th minute, and conceded 2 goals in 4 minutes in the second half, and were 3-1 down and crumbled and ended up losing the game 4-1. Against Brentford, they were 2-0 up and ended up just before half-time conceding 2 goals in 2 minutes, and in half-time the game was 2-2, and they ended up losing the game 4-3 in the last minute, having dragged themselves back in the game, but they crumbled in the last minute. So they definitely have a propensity of conceding late goals, and they have a propensity of conceding goals in quick succession, which is something that we are very good at. In many games we have hit teams in quick moments. One in against West Ham, hit teams in quick moments, and against Brighton, although we end up losing the game, hit teams with 2 goals in very quick moments. We do have against Aston Villa 2 goals in 4 minutes. So that is something that Ipswich are vulnerable to, and that is something that we are definitely capable of. So I think we should definitely be focused on making sure we're putting Ipswich under pressure, we're winning the ball high up the pitch, making sure we're forcing mistakes out of them. I saw against West Ham, a few of their West Ham's goals came from Ipswich losing the ball in their defensive third, West Ham pressing them high and giving away the ball in really bad areas, and Spurs were able to capitalise on those moments. West Ham were able to capitalise on those moments, force mistakes out of Ipswich, and obviously they were able to get the better of them and ended the game 4-1. They can be quite compact and be quite devastating on the counter. Liam Delap, who's been a bit of a revelation for Ipswich this season, I think 5 goals in the Premier League. He's a really good ball carrier, really good strength from the ball, and if you allow him to turn and run into space, he can carry the ball. I did see a moment against Brighton away, carries the ball from inside his own half with brilliant running power, gets the ball into the Brighton penalty area, has a strike across the face of goal, hits the post, inside of the post, but his running power, so powerful, so strong, and had enough running power to get to the Brighton penalty area from his own half. So he's a player we need to be wary of, especially if Romero's not fit. We'll get into the team news in a bit, but he's one who's got great running power. Jack Clark, a new signing from Sunderland, who's had a great time of it in the Championship. He's done really well. Jack Clark in the Championship last couple of years, come to the Premier League, done decent. He's also a threat on the counter, decent on transitions. He can be a player to be very wary of. Sammy Smodics as well in that number 10 position has really good timing of his runs, and he can be a difficult player to play against. Had a bucket load of goal contributions in the Championship. Omari Hutchinson on the right hand side as well. He's a player who can be tricky on his day. But obviously Calvin Phillips, he is suspended after being sent off last week against Leicester in the game they were winning 1-0. One player I think is definitely one to watch out for, and is something we've struggled with when it comes to fullbacks getting too much joy, is Leif Davis. He is a really good left back. He's really good. I think he's a left back who's going to get a big move potentially to a higher standard Premier League team in the summer if Ipswich go down, because he's got great quality on his left foot. We saw that goal. If you saw his goal against Leicester, you can see how much quality he has. He's got an amazing final delivery. When he gets in the final third, he's got that ability to pick players out, score goals, get assists as well. I think he's a fine left back. He's got good energy to get up and down the left-hand side as well. Defensively, maybe not the strongest, but if you can make up cover for his defensive flaws, there's a very effective left back there in Leif Davis. And that's an area where I feel like sometimes Spurs struggle, that ability to track their fullback all the way back into the defensive zones. Brendan has been getting better at that recently, but it's something that I feel like we do let the opposition fullbacks get too much joy, and I think Leif Davis is definitely a player who, if you give too much space to, he can hurt you, because he's got a wonder of a left foot, and I really think he can definitely be getting a good move in the summer. I'm a big fan of Leif Davis. But when it comes to Ipswich, how they play, I think they've been unlucky in a few games in the Premier League. They've definitely always seemed to be, apart from the West Ham game, been in the game for large parts of a lot of these games. And I think the West Ham game is definitely a bit of an outlier when it comes to some of the heavy defeats they've been taken. Really unlucky in their last say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like the last 6 or 7 games, a lot of very close results. 0-0 draw away at Brighton, 2-2 at home to Villa, 4-3 away at Brentford, 1-1 against Leicester. Some really close games and some close results, and it's not going to be an easy game at the start if we don't really put them under pressure and press them and make things uncomfortable for them. If we let them settle into the game, they do have that ability to sit in and be compact. And Kieran McKenna has shown that he has an ability in this division to get his teams be competitive and get his teams in the game. And they've got some good quality, in the front line. Clark, Smodics, Delap, Omari Hutchinson. There is quality there. I look at their backline, though, and let's be honest, it can be got at. I do think that backline can be got at. They're not the best at playing out the back. And if you press them like we are capable of pressing teams, with Solanke, running at players and hounding them, with Brennan Johnson and hopefully Son fully fit after being taken over half-time, with Decky and Sarr back in the team, I think our press could be a bit too much for them. And I think that is where we're going to get joy. And that's where we can put them under serious pressure. Funnily enough, when it comes to Ipswich, in our head-to-head, we are on a run of 3 consecutive defeats against them, going back to 2002 was our last game, losing 2-1 away from home. We then lost 2-1 at home and 3-0 at Portman Road back in 2000. So we are on a run of defeats to Ipswich. Haven't beaten them since August 2000, 3-1 win at White Hart Lane. So it's not been a good run. I'm not sure you can make too many judgments in terms of the head-to-head. But we are on a run of 3 consecutive defeats to Ipswich, so you could argue they have our number right now. But I don't think mobile phones were even popular back then. So hopefully it's going to be a different case on Sunday. Obviously, we do go into this game massive favourites, and talking about the team news for Tottenham. Werner's still out, Mikey Moore's still out due to illness. Odebear and Richarlison are long-term absentees, but in positive news, Coutinho could be back available. So if Romero is available, I think with him and Dragoshin in the back, that should be enough to keep the lap quiet. It showed against Villa that was enough to keep Watkins quiet. They physically dominated him. And if we're forcing Ipswich into long passes into the lap, I do think the aggressive nature of both Romero and Dragoshin to physically dominate the lap will be enough to make sure Spurs maintain control. Getting Decky back in the centre, his ability to bully his way through with that physicality. I think Sarr just making sure that we're pressing from the front and getting in their faces. Obviously, there'll be a bit of a debate. Do we start with Maddison? Do we start with Sarr? I do think he does start with Sarr, just because I think if we can just press them into oblivion and make sure they're causing mistakes in their backline, that will be the best way to get the easier chances. And I think we've shown in the last few weeks that right now that balance of midfield is really working. If we need a bit more guile and a bit more ingenuity, we still got Maddison to come on and he can pick the lock, and we can go Maddison and Decky if we need to open up Ipswich. But I think from the start, just get Sarr running at them at full pelt, get Kulusevski at full pelt from the middle, get Bentancur in the centre as well. And I just think they might crumble under that pressure, Ipswich. And I think our pressing could be the difference here. That's how I kind of see things. So if I'm predicting a result, I'm going to go 4-1 to Spurs. I think once we break that deadlock and break that rear guard, I think they might crumble under that pressure. They might struggle to really play out the back, and they might struggle to get their front line in the game. And I think the pressing is really where what I predict is going to be the undoing for Ipswich. They have talented players. They might get a goal, especially if Romero's missing. But I do think Tottenham's pressing will be too much for them. So that is why I'm predicting 4-1 to Tottenham. And that is your match preview going into the weekend's action against Ipswich. And we're going to end off this live stream with the predicted lineup going into Sunday's game. So just to run through the team news again, for the predicted lineup, obviously no Timo Werner. He is unlikely to be playing on Sunday, according to Ange Postecoglou, who's done his press conference. Mikey Moore, he remains out due to illness. He said he's not going to be ready for Sunday due to illness. Wilson, Odegaard and Richarlison continue to be long-term absentees, so they remain out for this game on Sunday. But Romero could potentially be fit after hobbling off against Aston Villa. He's going to have a late fitness test, and he potentially could train tomorrow with a view of being fit for Sunday. It's still up in the air, still 50-50. He has been called up to the squad for Argentina, so maybe it looks like there's a good chance he could be fit for Sunday. So that is the team news going into the game on Sunday. And the predicted lineup is going to be as follows. In goal, we're going to go for Guillermo Vicario, obviously coming in for Fraser Forster, who I felt didn't have a great game. Well, had a mixed game on Thursday, but Vicario comes back in. I think should be a quiet game for him, sweeping from the back and making sure Ipswich aren't running in behind, getting on those set pieces, but I'm envisaging a fairly quiet day for Vicario in this one. So him in goal. Right back, Pedro Porro. I was worried about him on Thursday that maybe we would run him into the ground a bit, but thankfully Ange said he'd come through the game unscathed. Jed Spence obviously was in training this week, didn't play on Thursday, but he is also an option. So if Porro is struggling with something, maybe we could play Spence, but I think Porro in this game will start and will be back in the team. And I thought he was one of our better players on Thursday as well. So Pedro Porro potentially up against Jack Clark on that left-hand side as well. He's quite a good dribbler, so he's going to have to make sure he's not getting too much joy there. Right centre-back, Cuti Romero. Slight doubt for this one. Hopefully he trains going into the game on Thursday. On Sunday. But I'm going to assume, Romero, when he's kind of touch and go to make it, a lot of the time he does pull through and gets into the game. And I think he could be a very important player for us on Sunday to make sure we're maintaining that control of Ipswich. So we're going to have Cuti Romero, our right centre-back. Left centre-back, Dragushin. Could be Ben Davis, because he was probably the best player on Thursday, but Dragushin needs to get back up to speed. Hopefully playing with Romero will help him, and obviously he did play really well in his last two games against City and Villa before the Europa League game on Thursday, where it was a bit of a shit show all round, not just him. So we're going to have Dragushin maintaining his place on Sunday. Left back, Destiny Udogie, who had a rest on Thursday, a well-needed rest because he's been playing a lot of football, and that was really important that he was taken out the firing line and got a really good rest going to the game on Sunday. So should mean he's really fresh for this game and willing and able to play 90 minutes here and back to his best. So really good to see Udogie get his rest on Thursday and should be back in the game on Sunday. Number 6, we are going to go for Rodrigo Bentancur. Basuma did start Thursday, but Bentancur obviously did start the two games before that against Man City and against Aston Villa. Did get taken off against Aston Villa on the hour mark, but I thought came on against Galatasaray and was brilliant. One of probably the best player for Tottenham on Thursday. I think there are real signs that he's really getting into his best form now for Tottenham, and signs of him getting back to his best. Thursday might have been one of his better performances for a while. So I think Bentancur does get the nod on Sunday, and hopefully his discipline could really... I think his discipline could really make a big difference here, and hopefully he just manages that position really well. And I think his ability on the ball is getting better and better as the games go on. So Bentancur gets his start for Sunday. Right centre mid, we're going to go for Dejan Kulusevski. Didn't start on Thursday again, had a bit of a rest, did come on for the second half, so did have to play quite a bit. But again, I think his pressing is going to be very important in this game. He's been playing so well for Tottenham. He's going to be that creative spark that we need in this game. He's got that running power to really hurt that Ipswich backline. And also really he's hopefully going to take that midfield to task in the middle as well. So Kulusevski, Kuluboski, says Orezham in the chat, big up to him. So he's going to start on the right centre mid. Left centre mid, a bit of a toss-up between Sarr and Maddison, but we're going to favour Sarr, been playing so well recently. Hard to see how we can drop him. Maddison didn't have the best game on Thursday. And I think the pressing is going to be very important in this game, just to hound Ipswich into mistakes. And I think Sarr just right now might be better suited to forcing Ipswich into as many mistakes as possible. I've seen them kind of struggle with other teams pressing them high and being really aggressive, and I think we should be doing the same here. So we're just going to go with Sarr for this one, who's another player in great form, and he has been getting goal contribution, so I think at the moment it's hard to leave Sarr out. Right wing, Brennan Johnson starts this game. Did start on Thursday, but was taken off at halftime. I'm sure with a view of him starting this game on the right wing. So I think he's going to be starting this one. And I do think it's going to be one where his runs to the back post is going to be very crucial in this game, because that's something that could really help break a low block. And it's something that low blocks can struggle with when a ball is flashed across face of goal. You got a player with Johnson's timing of the runs and his ability to get ahead of his marker with his pace. That could be something that could really hurt Ipswich. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a goal at the back post here. So we're going Brendan Johnson on the right wing, and also he's only fit right winger right now. Up front, Dom Solanke. Obviously, Lancashire did start on Thursday and got his goal, but with Richarlison out, with Solanke in the form he's in, obviously he is going to start, and he's our main striker at the moment. So happy with him. Came on Thursday as well, got his goal with a beautiful finish. So this is a guy with 3 goals in his last 2 games, really starting to find his goal-scoring boots, and he'll be licking his lips at the prospect of this Ipswich backline, the ability to press them and get chances against that backline. Hopefully he can really bully them physically and, you know, carry on his goal scoring streak, and hopefully their confidence continues to flow through Dom Solanke. And on the left, our captain, who else but Son Heung-min, who did again get taken off at half-time on Thursday. So we're really starting to manage his minutes. I think he's starting to look a lot sharper than he was pre-injury. Obviously against West Ham, came in and looked really sharp, got his goal and looked really sharp in that game, but did pick up an injury. Came back against Aston Villa, only played 55 minutes, but got an assist with a brilliant ball across the face of goal. I think he's starting to look sharp, and we're being smart with his minutes. I actually thought he looked fairly sharp on Thursday, but we're still being very, very careful with him. But I definitely think we took him off on 45 with a view of starting him in this game and maybe playing him for about an hour, hopefully, before the international break. So I think he's going to have a bit more time on the pitch on this one, and we're managing him very well. So Son on the left. So just run through the team again. Vicario in goal, Porro right back, Udogie left back, Dragic, Romero centre back. So midfield 3 of Bentancur, Decky and Sarr, with a front 3 of Brennan Johnson, Son Heung-min and Dom Solanke. I am going for 4-1 to Spurs in what could be a very important game for us, considering the fact that if we win with Brighton playing Man City, Liverpool playing Aston Villa, Arsenal going away to Chelsea on the Sunday. If you just bring up the the league table, bring up my phone. Let me just get it up. If results do go our way, we could find ourselves in the top 3 come the end of the weekend. I think that would rely on the likes of City and Brighton. Or it could rely on City winning, Villa and Liverpool. If City and Liverpool both win, and Arsenal and Chelsea draw, and Spurs win, we could be third. And Forest, lose to Newcastle, we could be third by the end of the weekend. If we do win this game, and I think we're definitely going to be in the top 4 if we win. No, we're not definitely, depending on Villa, what happens at Villa. But if we win, we're going to be definitely above one of Chelsea or Arsenal as well. Lots of ground to make up. So I think it's a big opportunity to gain some ground here. We've lost ground in the beginning of the season with some losses. If we do get a win, though, that'll make it 6 wins out of 11 games, and going into the next international break, something really important to build on. So we just can't let this opportunity pass us by to put us in a really good position. With Man City away coming up next, we can't afford to drop points on Sunday. Such a massive, massive win and a really good opportunity to build up ahead of steam. So really excited for the weekend. Really excited to see what we can do, and hopefully results go in our favour. And let's go into the international break in the top 4. That would be a really good way to end this little period, considering we've had some really damaging defeats. But if we can end this international break above Arsenal, considering the start to the season we've had, and they were supposed to be in the title race, that would be really, really telling, and hopefully could put us in a really good position. But look, that is your live stream today. Had to do it all by myself, so big thank you for everyone for joining in the chat, and big thank you for everyone for contributing in the chat and keeping me company here. All the clips will be out today later on, and tomorrow will be scheduled out, and that will be back Sunday for the watch along. Ipswich at home at 2 p.m. and it'll be Barnaby, I believe, with a solo stream on Sunday. So big up to everyone. Thank you, everyone's saying thank you for the solo stream. Big up to everyone for tuning in today for this stream. It's been a big effort to do it solo, but you guys made it easy in the chat, keeping me company here. And we'll see you very, very soon. We'll see you back on Sunday. Ben will be back on Sunday. I'll be with him in the ground, and Barnaby will be here in the studio for the watch along. Billy Akumbi says a bit of a sim and chill. Yeah, kind of. One in the studio. But yeah, we'll see you all very soon. See you back on Sunday. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.